Hi. Welcome to Lily's Story channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. My fiancécheated just 1 month before our wedding. Perhaps it was a woman's intuition, but I knew something was off when I noticed the passenger seat had been adjusted. I followed him to a notorious love hotel in the city. Yes, my fiancé cheated, with only a month left until our wedding. My fiancé on me, just 1 month before our wedding. Stephen, true to his name, was very ordinary in both appearance and family background, was my senior in college, a quiet and honest person. Someone like me, with outstanding looks and a lively personality, would normally have no interaction with such an ordinary man. But fate loved to play tricks. After I broke up with my handsome ex-boyfriend, Stephen stepped into my world. The day after my breakup, Stephen had someone bring me a long love letter written in such a formal style that it was almost laughable. Among all the excellent suitors, he seemed dull and unremarkable. At that time, I only saw him as a joke. Unexpectedly, this unremarkable guy was extraordinarily persistent. From then on, I received a letter from him every day without fail. As I read those beautifully written letters daily, my feelings began to change gradually. Among all the suitors who sent flowers and breakfast, his unique way of courting was indeed refreshing. I started to feel that this plain-looking and dowdy guy had a unique scholarly aura, like those ancient scholars full of talent but lacking opportunities. On my 19th birthday, Stephen gave me a thick volume of Dante's poetry. When I unfolded the 5-meter-long scroll, Stephen told me with bloodshot eyes that it was the result of 4 nights of copying. I was finally moved by his sincere effort, and we naturally got together afterward. Stephen was born into a poor family, where his parents barely managed to support him through high school, and he had to take out student loans for college tuition. His parents, who lived on welfare, couldn't help him at all. So Stephen had to work part-time jobs to earn his living expenses while repaying the loans. I always felt sorry for him back then, so I usually paid for most of our expenses when we were together. In order not to hurt his pride, I only let him pay for small things like buying water during dates. But I never expected that he would find his manhood in another woman. Recalling the scenes of him being intimate with another woman made me feel physically nauseous. "Rebecca, what's wrong?" Stephen quickly pulled the car over and started patting my back gently. Looking at the hypocritical face of the man in front of me made my stomach churn even more. But I forced myself to suppress the nausea and waved at Stephen. "Maybe it's because I ate leftovers this morning. It's nothing serious." Hearing this, Stephen visibly relaxed and put on a concerned look. "Your stomach has always been weak. You shouldn't eat leftovers." His acting was quite good, I sneered inwardly. Compared to leftovers, his cold heart hurt me more. Seeing that I was fine, Stephen started the car and continued driving forward, but I was calculating in my mind what to do next. After all, our wedding date had been set, and most of my relatives had been notified. If we cancelled the wedding without a clear reason now, it wouldn't just be Stephen's face that would be slapped. However, I didn't dare tell my parents about this. I needed more solid evidence to convince everyone. Thinking about this made me feel sorry for my parents. After all, they never really supported my relationship with Stephen from the beginning. My family was quite well off. My father ran a company, and its annual net profit had recently reached millions. In the city center, we had bought 6 apartments and an entire row of storefronts early on. Stephen, however, with a poor family background, struggled to pay off his student loans, a stark contrast to my well-off life. But my parents disapproved of our relationship not just because of Stephen's background. Once, when Stephen's parents came to handle some matters, both sets of parents met for the first time. To entertain Stephen's parents, my father specially booked a table at an upscale restaurant in the city. Throughout the meal, Stephen's mother kept talking about how brilliant her son was at studying, how many girls liked him, and how eager she was to have a grandson after his son got married. My parents' faces darkened during the meal. Later, they told me that my potential in-laws would be difficult to get along with since they seemed to have a strong preference for boys over girls. At that time, I was blinded by love and didn't heed my parents' words at all. Stephen also told me afterward that his mother had drunk too much and was talking nonsense, so I shouldn't take it to heart. So after that meeting, I didn't think much about it. Seeing that their advice fell on deaf ears, my parents set some ground rules for me. Before we got married, I wasn't allowed to reveal our family's true situation to Stephen or have any intimate relations with him leading to pregnancy out of wedlock. So in Stephen's mind, my family was just an ordinary working-class household with one apartment and a car for commuting. Although I didn't understand my parents' advice at the time, I was confident that Stephen loved me for who I was and not for my family's wealth. Even if I didn't reveal our true financial status, it wouldn't matter. So I followed my parents' wishes and never mentioned it to him. Now, I am only grateful that I listened to my parents back then. Stephen's infidelity was confirmed. I would never marry him. Even though I love him deeply and we had many years of emotional connection, infidelity was a matter of principle. Once it happened, it would happen again. No matter how much I loved him, I couldn't turn a blind eye to his blatant betrayal. I cleared my thoughts. The most urgent task now was to find more evidence of Stephen's infidelity. Usually, checking Stephen's phone would reveal more clues. During the journey back home, I closed my eyes to rest. Stephen thought I had a stomachache. Little did he know that my mind was racing with thoughts of how to uncover his infidelity back at the rented apartment. While Stephen was taking a shower, I quickly grabbed his phone. On our first day together, Stephen had registered my fingerprint in his phone's recognition system, said it was to give me a sense of security and that he would have no secrets from me. At that time, I naively believed this man's sweet words. Little did I know that one day I would use it to catch him cheating. With a nervous heart, I gently placed my finger on the button. The screen lock instantly unlocked, revealing our photo as the wallpaper. Next, I checked Stephen's contacts, WhatsApp chat history, spending records, and even his rarely used Facebook, but found nothing unusual. But my sixth sense told me it couldn't be that simple. Sure enough, when I opened his album, I found several strange photos. The photos were of the same hotel room keycard, but taken from different angles upon closer inspection. The photos were taken at 00:15 a.m., 00:27 a.m., 00:58 a.m., and 1:16 a.m. on different nights about half a month ago. The significant time gap between the photos virtually eliminated the possibility of them being taken by a flashing phone camera. I hurriedly checked the timestamps on the photos and then looked up Stephen's transaction records, but there were no expenses recorded during that period. This made things even more suspicious. Stephen's workplace was in the downtown area, so he usually returned to his rented apartment. Moreover, Stephen was always frugal. How could he not return home and choose to stay at a hotel instead? Aside from these suspicious photos, there were no other anomalies found on Stephen's phone for now. However, I decided to be extra cautious. I first sent these photos to my phone via WhatsApp, then I logged into my own account on Stephen's iCloud and turned on the automatic photo backup. I believed the answers would reveal themselves soon. Hearing the sudden silence of running water from the bathroom, I gently placed his phone back in its original spot and nonchalantly browsed social media while leaning on the sofa. Soon, Stephen emerged, wiping his wet hair. "Honey, what would you like to eat tonight?" "I'll cook," he offered. Stephen was a good cook. Since renting his own place after university, he often cooked meals for me and sometimes prepared lovely lunches for me to bring to the office. Nowadays, men who cook were rare, so my colleagues were quite envious of me for finding such a good man. Looking at Stephen, his face bore a silly, earnest smile, clearly waiting for my response. Suddenly feeling guilty, I wondered whether I'd misjudged such an honest man. With a slight smile, I replied, "How about sweet and sour pork ribs and a cold okra salad?" "Got it. Honey, you relax and watch TV. I'll get started on the ribs," Stephen said as he affectionately ruffled my hair with his chin. I used to adore this kind of intimacy, but today, it made me feel uncomfortable. Thinking of those photos and the hotel listed on the car's GPS, I felt a tightness in my chest. Another thought struck me. The hotel's name on the key card clearly wasn't the same as the hotel listed on the car's GPS. If Stephen was indeed cheating, he was fooling around with more than one woman simultaneously. This realization made me feel even more suffocated. After dinner, I went back to my parents' house as usual. My father was out entertaining and hadn't returned, while my mother was cuddling the cat and watching a movie on the sofa. I went to my room but felt unbearably stifled, so I decided to join my mother and chat for a while. Although I didn't dare to speak directly, I subtly brought up a topic. I heard a friend of mine is pregnant, but her husband cheated on her. Do you think she should get an abortion and divorce or just pretend nothing happened and wait for her husband to come back to her? My mother pondered for a moment before giving a clear response. There are some principles in marriage that a couple both can't break, like gambling, domestic violence, or cheating, she said. Once these lines are crossed, divorce is inevitable. With my mother's words as my support, my initial unease and anxiety lessened significantly. Online, had seen too many clueless cases where the parents of the cheated wife blamed their daughter for not keeping a close eye on her husband or suggested she endure for the sake of the children. But how long could one endure? I silently thanked my parents for their wisdom. With my mother's stance clear, I had no worries about the future. Now, I could seek out any evidence of Stephen's infidelity without worries, and if they proved true, I would promptly bid Stephen goodbye. But if it turned out to be my overthinking, I would find a way to make it up to him. Thinking of Stephen's outdated phone that he had used for a long time, I opened Amazon to look for a new phone model. If it was just my suspicions, I would give him a new phone to make amends. After all, my investigations were being conducted secretly and wouldn't harm Stephen in any tangible way. I added a new phone to my shopping cart and was about to close Amazon when I noticed a couple's outfit recommended on the right. I casually sent the link to Stephen and went to freshen up. When I returned, I saw that 2 messages had popped up on Amazon. One was from Stephen opening the link to the couple's outfit, and the other was his sending the link to an unknown ID, with a beautiful woman's profile picture. But why would Stephen forward the link of the couple's outfits to another woman? Clearly this wasn't just my speculation. Stephen's infidelity was becoming apparent. Lay in bed tossing and turning, sleepless through the night. But I knew better than to confront him without solid evidence, as it would only spook him. I used work as an excuse and didn't see Stephen for 3 days. On the 4th day, I suddenly called Stephen and suggested we have dinner together that evening. Stephen seemed startled at first but agreed. After hanging up, my heart pounded with anticipation, knowing that the truth would soon be revealed. I had chosen a reasonably priced Western restaurant for dinner, aware of Stephen's good drinking capacity. Whether beer or liquor, he could handle it. The only thing that could get him drunk was mixing drinks or drinking red wine on an empty stomach. Previously, I would never do this because I cared about his health. But now, desperate for answers, I needed to know if my fiancé had betrayed me and who the other woman was. Upon arriving at the restaurant, Stephen gallantly pulled out a chair for me. I remembered how out of his element he was the first time I brought him to an expensive restaurant, struggling with the cutlery, compared to his now effortless familiarity. My heart ached slightly as I looked at the man I had been with for so long. Was he still fooling around with that mistress? As he sat down, I picked up the red wine and proposed a toast to him. Stephen looked confused, perhaps sensing something unusual about me today, but I just smiled at him and said, "Honey, to us becoming a family soon." Hearing this, Stephen gradually relaxed. Because to him, I was someone who valued ceremonies. Whether it was a holiday or not, I celebrated it, and getting married was certainly cause for celebration. Then, using happiness as an excuse, I poured him quite a bit of wine. While he was away in the restroom, I took his phone, switched the iCloud back to his own account, then logged into his iCloud from my phone and deleted the login verification codes he received. After setting everything back in place, I continued to eat calmly. Stephen returned soon after, his face flushed, likely tipsy. I didn't encourage him to drink more but served him a small bowl of vegetable salad. Even at this moment, I still felt pity for this man who was about to marry me. As Stephen ate the salad and laughed in his drunken state, he said, "You always treat me the best." Feeling heavy-hearted, I casually responded, "Then do you love me?" "Of course I do," Stephen answered without hesitation, "I love you the most." People said drunken words revealed one's true thoughts, but I was unsure whether to believe him anymore. After dinner, I took a taxi to send Stephen back to his rented apartment. He was indeed tanked. As I helped him onto the bed, he suddenly pulled me close, his heavy breathing hit my ear, and his hands roamed restlessly. If it weren't for these discoveries, I might have given in, considering we were about to get married. But now, I was completely lucid, forcefully pulled away from his grasp and pretended to tenderly pass him some warm water to drink. Sure enough, after drinking the water, Stephen soon fell asleep. Listening to his steady snoring, I quietly took his phone from his bag and went back to the living room. I first opened his Amazon account, but saw no old messages containing shared links. They must be in WhatsApp or other messaging apps. However, when I opened all the messaging apps, there was still no trace of anything. This was odd. If they were together at that time, they could have seen the matching outfits directly, with no need to share links. Since the link was opened, there must have been a path for sharing it. Frustrated with my fruitless search, I decided to open my own iCloud, only to find content that was shocking enough to overturn all my beliefs. There were not only ambiguous chat screenshots but also explicit photos. I trembled as I looked at these chat records. The WhatsApp profile picture wasn't the one Stephen was currently using. No wonder I hadn't found any records at first. This guy had been flirting with someone else under a different account. I trembled with anger, tears involuntarily streaming down my face. But initially, I hadn't found any app on Stephen's phone that allowed for operating multiple WhatsApp accounts. Could this mean? I instantly realized, grabbed his phone, and went into the settings to the private space. My fingerprint obviously didn't work. I entered the passcode directly. Sure enough, the phone screen switched to a different interface immediately. And the wallpaper on this interface was a photo of another girl, half naked with a seductive look in her eyes. Clearly, it was a bedroom photo. Scrolling further, I found numerous live streaming and local dating apps. Casually clicking into one, there were chat records of Stephen flirting with others, and even arrangements for meeting times and hotels. My mind was a mess. I couldn't believe that this seemingly honest man before me could be so vile with other women. As I continued to scroll, sure enough, I saw Stephen had sent a hotel room card photo to one of the women he had arranged to meet, and the timing matched exactly. Because the woman suspected him of being a scammer, Stephen kept sending her room card photos, begging her to come find him. The conversation that followed, full of lust, made me physically sick. Amiss, I am truly sincere with you. Come and see for yourself. Baby, I will definitely treat you well. And in the end, the woman did go, and their chat later even reminisced about their passionate encounter. But there were far more secrets in this unknown phone system. Clearly, Stephen was not a first-timer but a habitual offender. Apart from the women he met through these various apps, Stephen even had a long-term sexual partner, the girl in the phone wallpaper. From the chat records on another WhatsApp account, it was clear they had been involved for at least 6 months. And what was even more devastating was that this girl not only knew of my existence but also had a boyfriend in another city. When they chatted together, they even discussed their respective relationships. One of the messages went like this. Girl, do you love your girlfriend more, or do you love me more? Stephen, I love both, but I love your body more. What about you, love me or your boyfriend? The girl, of course, I love my boyfriend. Stephen, and me? Girl, love you too, hee hee. Besides, they had exchanged countless nude photos for flirting. Maybe because the shock was too great, I was not as agitated as before. Then, using WhatsApp, I added Stephen's other account and dumped all the evidence of his infidelity there, including the chat screenshots from the dating apps. Day by day, message by message, I couldn't believe this so-called honest person had such a filthy side. It turns out, one can feign love. He could be sending you a love-filled lunch one second and rolling in bed with someone else the next. After transferring all the necessary evidence, I used Stephen's other account to remove myself and erased all traces. Back at home, I calmed down and thought things over. The wedding was not far off. Should I call it off in advance or confront him sooner? Unexpectedly, close to noon, Stephen called me. His tone was somewhat sheepish on the phone, and I initially thought he knew his infidelity had been exposed. But after hemming and hawing, he just mentioned that his parents were coming over in the afternoon and suggested having a meal together with my parents. I found it amusing inside but decided to just watch and see how things unfolded. Hearing my agreement, Stephen obviously breathed a sigh of relief, set the time and place, and then hurriedly hung up the phone. I didn't tell my parents about Stephen's cheating, just that we were joining his family for lunch. Time quickly moved to the afternoon, and I went to pick up my parents and happily proceeded to the appointment. The private room was booked by Stephen, likely to save money, so the place was somewhat remote. Before even entering the room, I could hear Stephen's mother bossing around the waitstaff. I calmly walked over with my parents and sat down, curious to see what this family was really up to. Before all dishes were served, Stephen's mother could hardly contain herself and started inquiring about our dowry and bridal payment. I glanced at Stephen beside me. Had discussed this issue with him and his parents long ago. Stephen's family was not well off, but I insisted on being with him, and my parents did not make it difficult for us. Our family decided that his family would pay over $80,000 for the wedding, and my dowry included a car and a house. We don't lack the money, but my parents mainly wanted to see Stephen's family show their commitment. I had Stephen talk to his parents about this, and the next day he readily agreed, saying his parents were on board. But now, Stephen seemed restless. Pretending not to catch my gaze, I wouldn't indulge him and said directly, "Stephen, are you not listening?" Seeing my harsh tone, his mother immediately glared at me. With my parents also present, I didn't want to embarrass everyone, so I simply turned away, pretending not to see her expression. But Stephen eventually spoke up. "Mom, didn't I tell you about the $80,000 for Rebecca's wedding? You don't have to worry, I'll handle it." I watched this display of a doting mother and filial son with cold eyes, silent. Then Stephen's mother's piercing high-pitched voice immediately rang out. "Is your family marrying off a daughter or selling one?" If I hadn't pressed Stephen yesterday, he wouldn't have planned to tell me at all. I glanced sideways at Stephen, who sat there red-faced and indecisive. Had it been before, seeing him like this would have broken my heart, but now, seeing his dilemma, I even felt it wasn't enough. "Didn't you discuss this with your parents long ago? What does your family mean by this?" I raised my voice, staring directly at Stephen. Stephen's face flushed even redder, his mouth opening and closing without making a sound, and why Mom was about to speak, but I subtly touched her leg, signaling her to wait. I softened my tone slightly. "Stephen, what do you think?" Stephen hesitated, then awkwardly said, "Rebecca, that money is also meant to help our small home. Think whether it's stored in your card or mine doesn't make much difference, just a formality, right?" I inwardly sneered, just a bit of kindness from me, and he'd climb right up. And I had been so blind before, unable to see his true face. Love is indeed blind. Even though my heart was already turbulent, I remained outwardly calm. I nodded at Stephen. "That's fine by your words." Hearing this, Stephen visibly relaxed, a faint smile appearing on his face, but I changed my tone. "If the wedding is arranged by my family, and the car and house are also from my side, what are you contributing to the marriage? You're not just contributing yourself, are you?" As expected, Stephen and his family fell silent. "How about this? I'll pass on the dowry, but the cost of the banquet is split between our families." My dad was about to intervene, but my mom held him back, signaling him to wait and see what Stephen's family would say. "Why split it equally? Your family has so many relatives, you just want our family to lose out," Stephen's mom scoffed. I was almost laughed at by anger. How had I not noticed how shameless this family was before? My dad's face showed obvious discomfort, and honestly, anyone faced with such in-laws would be overwhelmed. "You sort out your own issues, I have something else to do." Saying this, my dad sternly got up and left, my mom quickly following. Seeing my dad angrily leave, Stephen's mom appeared somewhat pleased, ordering the waiter to continue serving. I smiled softly and said, "Auntie, my family and friends will need about 10 tables. Just tell Stephen directly how many you need. I'll leave the hotel arrangements entirely to Stephen. It's more convenient for everyone this way." Stephen's mom listened stone-faced, but her eyes lit up when I mentioned leaving the accounts to Stephen. I knew such an arrangement would make it easy for her to play her little tricks. Indeed, after whispering with his dad for a while, Stephen's mom cleared her throat and told me that's how it would be done. "Rebecca, your parents won't disagree, right?" Stephen's dad suddenly spoke. "Uncle, don't worry, I'll handle my dad," I reassured. Stephen probably didn't expect things to be resolved so smoothly and eagerly started serving me food. During the entire meal, Stephen's family was jubilant, while I did not show any emotions. Although I found this family utterly disgusting, the plan had already started, and revenge needed time. Now, with about half a month left until the wedding, although our relatives knew we were getting married, the invitations had not yet been sent out. To avoid arousing Stephen's suspicion on the day of the wedding, I decided to have my parents and my best friends, along with their boyfriends, attend. Back home, I first called my bridesmaids. I told them about Stephen's infidelity, the wedding cancellation, but asked them to come on the scheduled day anyway. My friends were furious, some even cursing him out over the phone, but I felt surprisingly calm inside. Initially, when I discovered Stephen's infidelity, I felt like my whole world had collapsed and wanted to cry my heart out to someone. But as time passed, I lost that desire. There had to be a reason. It was that Stephen didn't deserve it. Whether it was my kindness to him, my indulgence towards his entire family, or my heartfelt love for him in the past, he didn't deserve any of it. I'm actually thankful to fate for letting me see his despicable other side before we walked down the aisle together, revealing what his family was truly like, and that marrying into it would have been nothing but suffering. Calming myself, I gathered my friends into a group chat and outlined the plan for the day, explaining how they needed to cooperate with me. Upon learning my plan, everyone agreed to help. Surprisingly, this usually unreliable bunch showed remarkable unity. Seeing these strong supporters warmed my heart. The next day, I showed my mom the saved chat records and asked her to inform my dad first, then relay to all relatives that the wedding was cancelled and they need not come. Though close to my dad, I felt embarrassed discussing such explicit matters directly with him. What touched me most was my mom's concern for my well-being after seeing the chat records, fearing I might not handle it well. She assured me that no matter what decision I made, she and Dad would always support me. During our conversation, I secretly wiped away tears several times. During this period, I found excuses to avoid meeting Stephen whenever possible. Ironically, in just a few days, Stephen chatted with different people daily. Having access to his iCloud, I received new photos and videos at home every day. Initially devastated by his infidelity, I became indifferent to these explicit images over time. A month before the wedding, I met him. I handed Stephen a list of fake names and asked him to fill out the blank invitations and return them to me. Such trivial tasks were not something Stephen would refuse. Enjoyed watching his hypocritical performance. Soon it was the original wedding day. Stephen's relatives and friends filled over 10 tables, while his mother busily greeted them and collected gifts with great enthusiasm. I pretended to prepare with Stephen backstage, waiting to surprise them all. The wedding, scheduled for 12:08 p.m., started early at 11:50 a.m. with music playing. The hotel's big screen began looping the most scandalous videos and photos. The audience erupted in shock while Stephen remained oblivious backstage as he got ready. His mother burst in frantically, crying uncontrollably. Stephen stood stunned while my dad cooperatively grabbed him by the collar, demanding an explanation. Stephen's usually domineering mother lost all her composure. I watched coldly as Stephen angrily charged at me but was quickly restrained by my friends' boyfriends who were prepared for this moment. Stephen screamed at me in rage, "Rebecca, you knew from the start, didn't you? You did this on purpose." Hearing this, his mother immediately jumped up and started cursing at me with all sorts of filthy words. I ignored her. Today's events were already enough of a shock for her. Unexpectedly, she tried to attack me physically as well. But my friends were not to be trifled with. They exchanged glances and restrained her promptly. Seeing that she couldn't hit me, Stephen's mother began wailing loudly again. "You ungrateful thing, you ate from Stephen's family, spent their money, and now you're trying to ruin him." I looked at her coldly. "Isn't he still alive? Why don't you ask Stephen, who has been using my money while fooling around outside?" Stephen's mother glared at me, raising her voice. "You shameless girl, I underestimated you. How dare you turn the tables on Stephen?" Turning the tables, I laughed softly. "Auntie, don't you know, nowadays shopping records are kept. Do you need me to print out the list and rate it to you one by one?" Before she could respond, a 7 or 8-year-old boy ran in from outside. I thought he was a relative who had wandered into the wrong place but was shocked when he ran straight to Stephen's mother and clearly called her mom. Scrutinized the boy bore an uncanny resemblance to Stephen. "What are you doing here? Go find your aunt," she said softly while glancing at me nervously. So they thought I was a fool. Stephen had assured me he had no siblings, she was an only child. The boy seemed unfazed by strangers. Just as he was about to leave, I called him over. "Come here, little one, let me ask you a few questions." At this critical moment, neither Stephen nor his parents stopped me. "Tell me," I asked gently. "Who are these people to you?" Without hesitation, he replied, "Dad, Mom, and brother." Just as I had suspected, another surprise awaited even on our wedding day. The room fell silent, handed the boy some candy and sent him off to play. "Rebecca," Stephen shouted angrily, "what's the point of causing such a scene?" At this moment of truth-telling and face-revealing, I finally realized how despicable this family almost became. Mine truly was. I walked straight up to Stephen and tore off the boutonniere from his suit. "You're the one who cheated. How do you have the nerve to shout here? I trusted you, we were together, and this is how you repay me." Hearing this, Stephen seemed to lose all strength and collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "Rebecca," he pleaded through tears, "I'm sorry, can you forgive me, just this once?" Watching this two-faced man disgusted me. Not wanting to hear more from him, I shook off his grip and left the hotel briskly. For Stephen, there was no hatred left, only deep-seated revulsion. This punishment was enough for him already. As for love now, I've lost faith in its purity, but perhaps finding courage for another relationship might lead me back to mutual trust and happiness someday. Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.